Welcome back to our series on the economic analysis of agency law. I'm Professor Seth C. Oranburg, and today we're exploring what happens when fiduciary duties are breached. Fiduciary duties are designed to reduce transactions costs and build trust. But when they're violated, the fallout can be catastrophic. Trust evaporates, inefficiencies skyrocket, and the entire system of delegation can collapse under the weight of its own failure. To understand the stakes, let's head back to Hotch Hotch. Things were looking up after the mayor implemented fiduciary duties and performance incentives. Honey production has increased. Trust was slowly being rebuilt, and the watchers seemed to be on the right track. But then disaster struck. One watcher, Sylvester McMonkey McBean, saw an opportunity for personal profit. McBean started siphoning honey from the town's hive and selling it to a neighboring village, pocketing the profits. At first, no one noticed, but when the mayor found out, all that progress began to unravel. The breach of loyalty sent shockwaves through Hotch Hotch. Other watchers began to question the system. If McBean can break the rules, why can't I? Some of them whispered. The bee, sensing the tension, returned to its lazy habits. The mayor was left scrambling to contain the damage. This wasn't just a moral failing, it was an economic crisis. Let's break down what happened. Economists would call McBean's behavior a classic example of moral hazard. When an agent knows that the principal can't monitor them perfectly, they may take risks or act opportunistically. Like when McBean exploited the trust built into the system, prioritizing his personal gain over the town's goals. This breach didn't just hurt the mayor, it destabilized the entire delegation structure. But moral hazard is only part of the story. Breaches of fiduciary duty also create what economists call residual loss. Residual loss is the gap between what the principal hoped to achieve and what actually happens after a breach. In Hotch Hotch, the mayor's goal was to create a system where watchers and bees work together to maximize honey production. McBean's breach derailed that goal, leading to lost productivity, wasted resources, and a breakdown of trust. Residual loss isn't just a financial metric. It's a measure of inefficiency. It's a measure of squandered potential. Now let's talk about some real-world examples. In a prior episode or two, we talked about Enron. That's the energy company that collapsed in one of the most infamous corporate scandals of all time. Enron's executives had fiduciary duties to act in the company's and the shareholders' best interests. But instead, they engaged in fraudulent accounting practices to inflate earnings and hide debt. And they did this because it made their stock options really valuable in the short term, so they cashed out before the house of cards fell down. The fallout was enormous. Shareholders lost billions, employees lost their jobs and pensions, and trust in the whole system of corporate governance took a major hit. These costs weren't just financial, they were systemic. They eroded confidence in the market itself. Back in Hotch Hotch, the mayor faced a similar challenge. McBean's breach didn't just harm the town financially. It undermined the watchers' faith in the system. To contain the damage, the mayor had to act decisively. First, he confronts McBean and revokes his position. This sends a message that breaches won't be tolerated. Then the mayor held a town hall to address the watchers' concerns. "I know the trust has been broken," the mayor said. "But we can't let one bad actor derail our progress. Let's work together to rebuild." These responses illustrate an important principle. When trust breaks down, principals must invest in repair. This repair is a type of transactions costs. The mayor had to spend time and resources investigating the breach, implementing new safeguards, and restoring trust among the watchers. This investment was necessary to prevent further inefficiencies and get the system back on track, but it's still a loss, a residual loss. Let's take a moment to think about what principals can do to prevent breaches in the first place. One strategy is to strengthen monitoring mechanisms. In Hotch Hotch, the mayor introduced a new reporting system. He required watchers to document their activities and the bee's progress in detail. This added a small monitoring cost, but it creates transparency and adds accountability. Another approach would be to align incentives more closely with long-term goals instead of short-term goals. So the mayor adjusted the bonus structure to reward not just daily honey production, but also metrics involving sustainability of the hive. By tying incentives to longer-term, broader outcomes, the mayor reduced the temptation for watchers to cut corners or act opportunistically. Finally, principals can foster a culture of trust and integrity. In Hotch Hotch, the mayor recognized that rules and incentive weren't enough. He needed to rebuild the watchers' confidence in the system. To do this, the mayor introduced regular check-ins and created opportunities for watchers to provide feedback and 360 reviews. By involving the watchers in decision-making, the mayor reinforced the idea that the system belonged to everyone, not just to those in charge. In the broader economy, breaches of fiduciary duty remind us that delegation is always a balancing act. Principals must balance trust of their agents with safeguards to ensure that trust isn't abused. When breaches occur, the cost can ripple far beyond the immediate relationship. Breaches can affect markets, organizations, entire industries. So what's the takeaway? Breaches of fiduciary duty are more than just legal violations. They're economic disruptions that erode trust, increase inefficiency, and undermine the benefits of delegation. But they also highlight the importance of accountability, transparency, and shared goals. By understanding the dynamics of trust and breach, principals and agents can create systems that are resilient, efficient, and fair. In our next episode, we'll shift gears to explore trust and reputation as a kind of economic asset. Trust and reputation have value. We'll look at how they reduce transactions costs as well. Trust and reputation can foster long-term relationships, making delegation more efficient. And yes, we'll keep checking back in with Hotch Hotch, and we'll see how the mayor's continued efforts to rebuild trust are paying off. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'm Professor Seth C. Oranburg, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you in episode 6.